Welcome back to our run through of Pax Porfiriana. Now we're going to discuss the different types of cards within this huge deck of 220 cards. First of all, I've changed to a black background. This is so that we don't get the bounce back, the reflection, the shine from a shiny wooden tabletop, just because we need to be a bit closer in on these cards. So the first type of cards then are your hacendados. You will play a hacendado. So you will choose one of these cards either at random or by preference, depending on how you want to play the game. You'll choose one of these cards at the beginning of the game. Now for hacendado, think land baron, oligarch. They're all rich landowners and businessmen basically, and it's these guys, one of whom you'll choose, that are going to try to overthrow the Porfirio Diaz, the president, before the end of the game. Now each card has a lot of information on it. First of all, there's the actual photograph of the historical figures. Francisco Madero, Bernardo Reyes, Boss Shepherd, Don Luis Terrazas, etc. And these guys were all very active politically and in business at the time that this game covers. You're also going to place two of your income cubes in your chosen colour on your hacendado. Because each and every turn you will gain 2 gold, 2 coins, from your hacendado each turn. And you can see I've chosen these 3 colours here to represent a 3-player game. On top of that, we have the type of person they are: an intellectual, a politician, a cattle baron. That one just says American. A general, a revolutionary. Other information on the card is the kind of overthrow of the president that you are looking for. What is it that you're going to gather around you in order to eventually overthrow the president and become president yourself? For instance, Francisco Madero here, he's looking for revolution and outrage points. Here we're looking for loyalty and revolution points. Loyalty and command points. Command and outrage for Boss Shepherd here. Loyalty and command, and revolution and command. So there is some overlap, and that provides the competition. For instance, this guy here, this guy here, this guy here, they're all looking to gather loyalty points. And when each one has thinks he's gathered enough loyalty points, he can attempt a topple of the government. But those same 3 guys are looking for maybe other ways of toppling as well. This one is also looking for command. This one is looking for revolution points. This one's looking for command. These 2 guys are looking for outrage points as well as revolution and command. So basically that's what you're starting with. For instance, we started with this chap here. We'd be looking for loyalty and revolution points. We'd also be buying black cards from the market for 0 gold. So black cards that we buy from the market will cost us 0 gold. This guy can buy partners from the market for half cost. All very useful stuff. This guy, the cattle baron, when he takes a buy land option in Chihuahua, he expends 1 action instead of 2. This guy's simple. He just starts with an additional 3 gold. That's useful, by the way. It can get you started a little bit quicker. Bernardo Reyes, he will buy troops from the market for half cost, and this guy here will buy orange cards from the market for half cost. So each of them have a particular power, if you like. On the reverse side, let's have a quick look at the reverse side. There's your loyalty. So when you flip the card during a topple attempt, you've got an extra loyalty point on the back. Or if you play him up that way, and it's completely up to you, you've got an extra revolution point instead. We'll come on to that when we talk about topples. So there is your choice of 6 different Hacendados, who are the player characters that will play this game. So the next set of cards we'll look at will be the regime cards. Here we go. There are 4 regime cards, 4 different types of regime, and these will be permanently on the board in a small pile like that. 4 cards. There we go. And each time the regime changes, and we spoke about this chaos, this anarchy during this period, each time the regime changes, you put the appropriate card. For instance, if it changes to martial law, or if it changes to anarchy, or if it changes to US intervention, that card will, for instance, be on the top, whatever the regime is at that particular time. And there are many times where the regime can change. The regime can actually change several times in one game turn, depending on what the other players are doing. So let's first of all look at the green regime card, which is Pax Porfiriana. So this is the, if you like, the default situation in Mexico at the time. This is Diaz ruling as he always has done, and that's why it's called the Pax Porfiriana. You'll notice several things about it. One is the colour, it's green, and each loyalty point is shown on various cards, and we'll come to that, in a green circle. So that's why the background here is green. Now, during Pax Porfiriana, during this regime, each mine that you own gets 2 income. And the economy is worth 3. These are important because these will change depending on what regime is in power at the time. If we look at another card, for instance martial law, and we now see that mines are worth 2 gold per turn, and the economy is now reduced to 2. If we look at anarchy, mines are now only worth 1, and the economy is only 1. And now we go to US intervention, and mines are now worth a whopping 3 gold per turn, and the economy is 2. One of the ways economy is used, by the way, if you want to sell a card, because you can sell a card as one of your 3 actions per turn. If you want to sell a card, you would get 2 gold for it, or 1 gold for it, 2 gold for it, 3 gold for it. So it will change depending on the regime, as will the income of mines. As we say, there 2, there it's 2, but there it's only 1, and there it's 3. So as the regime changes, you will often be changing your resource cubes on various cards, but that will become self-explanatory. Now briefly, on the other side of these, remember we mentioned that each of the Hacendados, each of the player characters, has different goals. Now this guy here has loyalty and revolution. So he would, for instance, best be placed to try and overthrow the regime, where he will gain loyalty or revolution points. Now, for instance, Pax Porfiriana, it's loyalty points that Diaz has. Martial law, it's command points that are being looked for, or revolution points during anarchy, or outrage points during a US annexation, which would naturally promote outrage in the population. Revolutionaries, martial law, these are your military guys, so hence the command points. The loyalty points, that means that someone loyal to Diaz is still receiving backhanders for various cards throughout the game. So, quite simply then, there are your four possible regimes during the game, and then a regime will occasionally change throughout the game as commanded by various players. And we need to learn to strike when the iron's hot. When a topple card comes along, have we got the required amount of, for instance, command to outdo Diaz so that we can overthrow him? Now then, so let's now come on to the next set of cards, which will look at enterprises. These are the enterprise cards. I say these are the enterprise cards. This is a small selection of them. There are dozens of these in the big set. Basically, you choose an enterprise. An enterprise is a business, obviously, so this increases your income. So you place it in your tableau when you choose it from the market area of the game board. And I'll just put a couple of examples out here, like so. Let me find there we go. That one will do there. So, if we look at this first one, it's a bank. And this bank is in the area of Chihuahua. There are 3 geographical areas, and it really is like moving pieces across a map. You can imagine the map. The game is almost played on a map, but there isn't a map in the game, if you like. And there are 3 different areas that cards apply to within Mexico. There's the 2 Mexican areas, which is Chihuahua, and you see this one is Sonora. This one here is also Chihuahua. This is the 3rd area, United States, which actually means the border zone. The border zones, the problematic border zone between the USA and Mexico at the time. So those are your 3 geographical areas where cards are played into. The USA, Chihuahua and Sonora. Let's have a look at some more. Chihuahua again there, look, Chihuahua again there, Sonora and Sonora again there. And all these are different types of enterprise. Some of them work in slightly different ways. What should we look at first? This is an interesting one. This theatre. This theatre, it has some nice artwork on it to give a bit of historical flavour. It tells you where it is. As I say, it's in Chihuahua. When you place it, it gives you loyalty, a loyalty point, and you can get to it by using a train. We'll come on to that in a second. No unrest tokens are allowed on this card, because after all it's the theatre, it's where people go for entertainment and so on. And here is the amount of income that theatre will give you per turn 1. So let's place an income cube on there. So now, for instance, my chap here, each turn he would gain 2 gold from here and 1 from here. If instead we played the mine, and if, let's go back to our regime cards, the regime was, for instance, Pax Porfiriana, mines earn 2 per turn. So, where are we? Yeah, there's the mine. So when you first play the card, and it's the Pax Porfiriana regime, you would be earning, for as long as it remains Pax Porfiriana regime, 2 income points per turn. So now you've got 2, 4, we also played the theatre card, didn't we? 5. So that's how you're building up your tableau to earn money. If we had, for instance, the gun store, so let's take that one off a second. A gun store, another kind of enterprise, that's got a fixed income of 1. That's regardless of regime, because it's only mines that change their income during different regimes. And yet, if you had this F. Ronstadt & Co. gun store, you would also receive 2 gold from the pool for every orange card played by any player. So as orange cards are played on each other, and we'll come to the orange cards later, throughout the game, and the orange cards tend to be bandidos, bandits, strikers, that kind of thing. Each time an orange card is played, you would receive 2 gold, and that is because when this kind of strife happens, armed bandits running around the country, the business of the gun store goes up. The gun stores earn more money, more people are buying guns. So each time somebody plays a gold card, you receive 2 gold. So that could be quite good. Another thing that these market cards do, at the moment, the method of reaching the gun store is by boots. In other words, walking. We saw this one here, where the method is by donkey trail or by mule. Now, I can improve the route to my gun store into a mule trail. It would cost me 1 gold. But once I've done that, I would get an income from that route. Look how my income's building now. 2, 3, 4 from a mine, 5 from my gun store, 6 because I've improved the route. Now, if the regime changed to anarchy, for instance, the income from our mines goes down to 1. So there's always that housekeeping. The regime changes, you go, has that affected any of my cards? Yes, it's affected that one. That mine can now only earn 1 per turn. None of the other things change. You still get 1 income from there, still get an income from, it's just the regime affects the income from mines. So that's just reinforcing that, if you like. So that's basically how the enterprise cards work. You build up your tableau by creating these businesses. You pay for them from the market, and then there's a payment cost to actually play the card into the game. The cost to play this card is 9. The cost to play this mine and set it up is 6. The cost of this one is 7. That's quite a cheap one, look, a ranch. The cost to play it is 3. Something different here. Notice that's just got a plain orange cube. That's got a plain orange cube because they're fixed income. On there it says start income. So the start income is 1. Because it's a ranch, you can buy land. And normally a land is 2 of your action points. So To increase this card's income, we can buy extra land and add it to the ranch. The start income is 1, so to increase it is going to cost us another 1. So we pay 1 gold, and now our income each turn is 2. If we want to increase it further, on the next turn for instance, the cost to increase it is now 2. But we can pay our 2 gold, and our income from the ranch each turn is now 3, so you're growing your land. If you want to improve the transport to it from a mule track to a rail track, that's going to cost you 5 gold. Fairly expensive to do, but again, as I explained, once you do that, you drop another income cube on it. Look at how your income is growing as your tableau is growing. But you're not always going to get an easy time of it. Oh no. So troops will come along maybe and interfere with what you're doing. So we'll look at that next. I'm going to remove some of these. Yeah, let's take these off. Move the ranch. What shall I leave on? Mexican ore. I'll leave that mine where it is. I'll just remove these guys for now anyway, unless we need another example. Remove this guy. Now then, here's the mine. Let's say it's the regime is Pax Porfiriana. There we go. That's the regime that we're in at the moment. So the mine will actually be earning 2 cubes each turn. And let's say I haven't yet improved it. So each turn at the moment, because maybe that's my first enterprise in my tableau, I paid for it from the market, and then on another turn I played it into my tableau at a cost of 6. It's now earning me 2 gold per turn, so I'm getting 4 gold per turn. That is, unless we use troops to protect it, or if someone else uses troops to actually extort from our mine. So let's take a look at the troops. Again, troops are available to be played into any of the 3 geographical areas within the game. That's Chihuahua, Sonora, and the United States. Let's look at this one. Local troops. Strength of 1. If played, they'll give me a command point. They will cost me a certain amount of gold to play depending on the area. If I'm using rail, it'll cost me 7. If I'm using mule, it'll cost me 2. If I'm using boots, if I'm walking there, it'll cost me 1 to play the card. Let's have a look. But I can only play it in the area of Sonora. These are local troops and they can only get to Sonora. I could use that card to protect my mine. I could do that, couldn't I? Because my mine is in Sonora, my local troops are in Sonora, and it would cost me 1 to get there. So I could play that card into my tableau, if I have it, like so. It's best to place it just underneath the card it's applying to, like that. So now that card is protecting with a strength of 1 my mine. So I'm using some of my local troops to protect that mine, but they're only strength 1. So let's take a look. Someone else, oh by the way, before we move on, when first played, change the regime to anarchy. Oh dear. So one of the outcomes of me actually playing that card onto my own mine is that the regime will change to anarchy, which means my income will reduce by 1. So maybe I didn't want to play that at all, but it's just an example of how these things change. Now, another player, or if you're playing solo, your other hand, your left hand, is now playing a card against you, and it's going to place federal troops, look, the 11th Rurales Corps. Luckily, this other guy, or unluckily for me, whichever way we look at it, is the fact that he's got his troops in Sonora, which is where my mine is. This set of troops has a strength of 2, which defeats my strength of 1. So to defeat defending troops, you always have to be 1 higher, and they can go up to 3. Let me find one. There we go. There we go. That one's strength 3. There we go. That one's strength 3. So we've got strength 1, strength 2, strength 3. Either of those would defeat that, but only that one can be played because these troops are in Sonora. These troops, look, which have the Krupp railway gun, are in Chihuahua. So they couldn't have been used against me anyway at this particular point. But this one can. So along he comes. He removes, and it gets removed from the game by the way, this single troop. This 2 strength troop goes underneath. When first played, change it back to Pax Porfiriana. So the income is now 2 again. Okay, but one of these income cubes is now extorted by the other player. So it's earning 2, because we earn 2 from mines during the Pax Porfiriana regime, but one of them is being extorted. That tells a fantastic story, because what's happening here is there's a protection racket going on now. These troops being played on me by another player, and he's going to protect my mine, and he may well be better off, a better place to do that, because he's 2 strength, and now for anybody to defeat that, they need a 3 strength unit to come along, or if I wanted to remove it, need a 3 strength troop to come along to actually remove that card. So one of the lessons, I think, is that if someone comes along and uses extorting troops on your cards, on your enterprises, it may not always be bad, because although they'll be earning each turn 1 gold from your mine, you could say, well, okay, that's fine, but they're giving me some protection. That same player isn't going to come along, for instance, and try and nationalise that mine, or sack the mine, or put unrest on that mine, or anything like that, because he'd be playing against himself. Because at the moment, thank you very much, he's earning 1 cube from it. So it can be a stabilising factor. It's up to you. So that's an interesting way troops can be used, but as I say, they can only be used in their own area, and you must pay the cost to get there in the first place. Okay, so that's a very quick look at troops. The next one I think we should look at is partners. And again, there's dozens and dozens of these things in the game. I'll just remove those out of the way briefly while we take a look at partners. Here's the partners. Various partners in the game. There's a partner that gives you It's called Rebel Recon. It gives you revolution points, costs 3 to play. It's the Mexican Air Force. And you may redeploy troops for 0 cost. So if you've got troops on the board already, you can redeploy them without paying those transport costs, rail, mule or foot. So you could think, good one, I'll play that one. It gives me a revolution point. And just remind ourselves that our guy here is looking for revolution points. A historical figure here, another partner, there it is, partner. Local marriage, Angela Teresa's. If in play, we get an unlimited hand size. The hand size of the cards in hand at any one time, that's cards that are not in your tableau, still in your hand. The hand size is 5. This gives us unlimited hand size and an extra action each turn. So we get those 3 actions each turn. This one gives you an extra action, sell a card. If we're looking for loyalty points, it also gives us loyalty. This one here, green partner, it's going to give us loyalty. It's called Federal Monopoly. It's a partner. National Mexican Company of Dynamite and Explosives. Ooh. If in play, and this is how the theme really works well, the stories it tells. So we've cornered the market in dynamite and explosives, and we collect gold spent by opponents to build connections. These are the connections that we briefly spoke about during our enterprises. You're improving your connection by building a railroad, for instance. This one here, you're improving your connection by building a railroad. So each time somebody in the game does that, you would collect the gold from them instead of then paying the bank for that collection. Juicy. Partners, here's a blue one because it gives us outrage. See, everything's colour coded. So the blue is outrage. Apache Scouts, you may redeploy troops for 0 cost. And there's some nice flavour text again here. The Apache Scouts served with the 10th Cavalry Buffalo Soldiers during Pershing's 1916 expedition into Mexico. They proved to be adept at tracking horses stolen by Villistas. These are the Villistas are the bandidos of Pancho Villa's somewhat substantial army at the time. Another partner, this one's called Local Courts. It's going to give me loyalty points again, the first instance court. These are all historical things. If in play, your Chihuahuan enterprises cost 2 less to play. To play even. So if we had that in our tableau, we wanted to play that ranch. It is Chihuahua, so it complies with here. So instead of paying 3 to play it, I would only pay 1 gold to play it. There are dozens and dozens of these partner cards in the game, each one doing something very, very different, and most of them giving us either loyalty, revolution, outrage or command points. The 4 things required that we're collecting to be able to topple the Diaz regime. Now, red and black cards. This is where the game gets nasty, because we can play very cheap orange and black cards, and again there are dozens of them, onto someone else. You can play one on yourself as well. Sometimes there are reasons why you actually want to play a black or an orange cards, which are normally damage cards of some kind, onto yourself, as well as an opposing player. Play this black card, Bureau Investigation. It's a lawsuit. You're going to nationalise a US enterprise. Oh, dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. If you remember those enterprises we looked at, some of them can be US enterprises, like that one, US enterprise. So you would play that card, nationalise it, which means that it leaves the game completely. Devastating card, this one. It costs 2 actions to play the card, unless the regime is US intervention. That's the icon for the US intervention regime. If it is the US intervention regime, it would only take 1 action, but otherwise 2 actions. So nationalise this guy's enterprise and at the same time steal 1 gold from him. So that's one type. Another type here. It can only be played in Sonora, this orange card. Let's just find a Sonoran card. Here we go, like so. And let's put some income on it. There we go. So we now get this orange card played on us. It can be played because it's Sonora. It costs no gold for the person to play. They steal 1 gold from us and also place 3 unrest tokens on the enterprise. We haven't looked at unrest tokens yet. If I just reach over, because I left my tub over here, there we go. So they've stolen 1 card from 1 gold from us. They're now going to put 3 unrest tokens onto our mine. Not nice. And at the same time, what I now do is upturn the card, and they've also given us an outrage point, because they've outraged us, haven't they? If you gather enough outrage points, you could actually, let's have a look at another outrage point here. So we'd had that card played against us, an outrage point. That orange card would have given us an outrage point. So someone is actually bombarding us with nastiness, but at the same time it's building up our outrage points. It's making us very outraged. So we could look for an outrage, for a chance to topple an outrage regime, which we know is US annexation. That regime requires outrage to topple it. So you have to be careful. If you're playing orange or black cards against someone, you could be gifting them away to win the game. There are so many different ways to win this game, and that's just one of them. We could either topple using what we're actually looking for instance here, loyalty and revolution, or if someone's been silly enough to bombard us with hit after hit after hit against our tableau, it could be gifting us outrage points, or even in some cases, I think I saw one just back here. Oh, here we go. This one here, nationalise US, would nationalise our mine, fair enough, but also gift us a revolution point. So that's various ways in which orange and black cards are played during the game against your opponent, most often against your opponent, but not always. You can play them on yourself. For instance, to give yourself outrage points. But didn't we just put, where are we? Didn't we? Yes, we did. There we go. Okay, we just put 3 unrest tokens onto this mine. While there's any unrest tokens on any of your enterprises, you can't earn the gold that's on them. So unrest is bad. So what I'd be doing now, so let's find a way of removing all that unrest so that we can regain our income. Our income's important to us. So I'm going to clear the decks a little bit. Move these guys out of the way. Move this guy out of the way. Put these better in shot. I don't think they've been in shot very well actually. It's not easy to move them on this abrasive material. So we need to get rid of these 3 unrest points. Now you can do it by paying for police action, and each police action normally costs 3 gold. And by paying 3 gold you can get rid of 1 unrest point, and that's 1 of your actions. Long-winded way of doing it. If it's martial law, by the way, if the current regime is martial law, one of the results of martial law means that police action costs 0 gold. So if it was martial law, you could take advantage of that to start removing unrest points. But at the moment, see our 2 gold there. So we know we're in Pax Porfiriana regime. So that's an expensive way of doing it. So, time to get our troops in play. For each point of troops you send to your enterprise, you can get rid of 1 unrest token. So, if it was 1 point of troops, once it arrives there, it would only remove 1. But next turn, it could remove another 1. If you play the action again, it could remove another 1. Da 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 da. If, for instance, I think here, just off camera here, didn't we have? Yeah, we had a set of troops, didn't we? Federal troops, the ones with the crook railway gun. These are strength 3, so these could be played towards my mine from my hand. Because it's strength 3, it could get rid of all 3 unrest points. We can't do it because our federal troops with the railway gun are way off in Chihuahua, and our unrest mine is in Sonora. Can't do it. What else can we do? So at the moment, with the hand I'm playing with right now, I have got some troops in Sonora, the 11th Rurales Corps, strength 2. They're in Sonora. I've got to get there by foot because I haven't improved the connection. It would cost me 2 gold to get there. So off I go, send them along. Guys, go and sort that place out. It would change the regime look to Pax Porfiriana, but we're already in that regime, so that's fine, that's good. And our 2 strength of troops can remove 2 unrest counters. Back in the pot. For a further action, I could redeploy those troops once again, in other words, activate them again, to get rid of my final unrest token. So the guy that played that nasty orange card on me, he caused me some headache. I've sent troops along to quell the unrest. Again, there's the story. And we've gotten rid of the unrest. It's just taken a couple of our actions up, which has stymied us a little bit, but nevertheless, we're free at the moment of unrest. we're nearly done with explaining the cards. Couple more things to do. Let's have a look. Move those out of the way for the time being. Off we go. Now let's look at the headline cards. Headline cards. What do headline cards do? Occasionally headline cards will come along. They're newspaper headlines. And if you choose one from the marketplace, we'll see this in action in the next video. If you choose one, then you can play the action on the headline, and you play it immediately. In other words, you choose the headline from the market and now you play it as well at the same time. This one says, all nationalise one of their Mexican enterprises. That could be bad. Unless you're a player that doesn't particularly have any Mexican enterprises, your enterprises, for some reason, may all have been United States enterprises. If you remember, like so, United States enterprise, so that wouldn't get nationalised, but the ones in Chihuahua and Sonora, they would be nationalised. When you play the headline, it also changes the regime back to Pax Porfiriana. So if we were in anarchy and it was hurting me and it wasn't the way I was wanting to go, then I would play the headline card, change it back to Pax Porfiriana, and then what the headline cards have on them, if we look here, they have strife. All these headlines causes some kind of strife. So if you have in your tableau green cards and blue cards, it causes strife. So let's have a look at green and blue. There's an example of a green and blue. Green cards, blue cards. If that headline is played, that means there is strife within my areas. So I'd have to discard one of the colours. I might have had 3 green, 2 blue, or 1 blue. I'd have to discard one of those colours to negate the strife. I have to stop the strife. Or, for instance, it could be white cards and blue cards and green cards, red cards and green cards. If you have those mixes within your tableau, let's just show red and green. That's how that works. Red and green cards, look, red and green. You've got red and green. One set, one particular colour has to go. Whether you've got 1 card of that colour, 2, 3, 4 cards of that colour, one of the colours has to be discarded. So that's a problem with the headline cards. The other thing with headline cards, whenever you play and discard them, notice at the top, if I just put them like that, there we go. These 3 have a black bull, these 2 have a red bear. This is the market. It's the bulls and bears market. And there's a reason why they are this colour. The bull market is okay, it's not really going to affect you too much. The bear market is red, red for danger. Let's say that one was discarded first and then that one. There's a separate discard pile for headlines. So we've had 2 bulls. Now the next one that gets discarded is a red bear. If the next one is a red bear, in other words 2 red bears in a row, that causes, what does it cause? What's it called? Depression. That's it. It causes depression. So that signifies a depression, and look what happens. In all the 4 regime cards, a depression means, see there's the red bear, no income from mines or the economy. It's a depression. Nobody's going to be earning any money from mines or economy. So let's hope you've got some ranches instead, so you can still earn from those, except during the income phase, you've got to pay 1 gold for every card you've got in play. So even if you have got partners in play and ranches and a theatre, and you can still earn a bit of money off those, you're going to have to pay, because of the inflation, 1 gold to keep each of those cards in play. And for each one you can't keep in play, you would discard it. It's out of the game. Depression is bad, and it can only be resolved. Depression, these 2 red bears, can only be resolved by 1, 2 black bulls being placed on top of it. The next 2 headline cards along need to be black bulls to cure the depression. I'll tell you now, you would do everything you can possibly do during the game. When you see these red bears coming along, you say to yourself, please, 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 you've got to somehow at least get a black bull in between them, discarded, so that the 2 red bears aren't discarded one after the other. Because that now is, for instance, is not a depression. So, red bears can be cured by black bulls. Keep the red bears apart, otherwise we're in a very depressing situation. One more thing to explain, just one more, and that's topple cards. There are 4 topple cards. There's hundreds of cards in the game, as we've explained, but there are 4 topple cards. 4 chances to end the game and to win it. And notice that the topple cards also have black bulls or red bears on them. So each of these is a topple card. It comes along much like the headline cards do. There we go. They are distributed within your play deck. So if you recall, I pointed out that with 3 players you would have 50 cards plus 10 cards per player, so let's say 80 cards. Distributed evenly amongst the 80 cards at fairly even intervals will be 4 topple cards. And then you're not going to know when they are. You've always a feeling of when the next one is going to come up because you played sort of X amount of cards into the market. And when they do, someone has a chance to cause a topple of President Diaz. And this is the way it works. So the person that chooses a topple card, let's say this one, see they all have the same backs as all the other cards. So I think I'm going to be able to topple President Diaz. In fact, this one, Presidente Diaz, is shot. So I play the topple card. If the regime, it says there, is martial law, I can't find the martial law card at the moment. Oh, there it is. If the regime is martial law, we would -1 from Diaz's command. But let's say it's not martial law. Let's say it was, here we go, Pax Porfiriana. We turn the Pax Porfiriana card over and it's loyalty points that count. So whoever uses this topple card has done it because they think they've got more loyalty points than the other 2 players and Diaz. win if your loyalty is more than the tripartite loyalty, which is the Diaz loyalty of 2. So his default position is always 2. He always has 2 points. Look on the back of the martial law card. He has command points of 2. On the back of the revolution card, he has revolution points of 2, and so on and so on and so on. And well, actually I might as well just finish it. On the US intervention card, he has outrage points of 2. So let's just go back to our example. Loyalty points. If this person who played that card, he's going to try a topple. He thinks he's got more loyalty points than Diaz. We know Diaz has got 2. If I only had 1 loyalty point, that's 3. Player number 2 had 2 loyalty points. That's 5 in total. Player number 1, who played the topple card, would need 6 loyalty points. And that's difficult. In order to topple the regime. Because Diaz has always got 2 of whatever points we're looking for. I might have, let's say for instance, 1 loyalty point. Player 2, for instance, has got 1 loyalty point, so that's 2. 3 with mine, 4 with the other player. So the guy who's toppling would need 5 loyalty points to win the game. And the same would apply whether it's outrage, whether it's revolution points. You have to have more, in other words, to win the game, more of whatever those points are to win the game. More of, for instance, loyalty in this case to win the game. Or in this case, more command points or more outrage or revolution points in order to win the game. More than the tripartite, and the tripartite is the other 2 players, if you're playing 3-player, and Diaz. Or even if there's 6 players, the tripartite is the 2 players with the lowest number of whatever points you're looking for, let's say revolution. So the 2 players with the lowest number of revolution points, and President Diaz, which you know has 2 revolution points. If you have more, you can create the topple. It's probably best to look at that in a real situation. So that is an overview of all the different cards, the mass of flavour, the mass of theme, the politics, the military moves, the business building, the engine building of building your income, the double dealing, the cards which are used to stymie, to trip up, that's the orange cards and the black cards mainly, to trip up your opponents. That's an overview. What we need to do now is see what they look like on the actual board and how a turn is played. So we will do that next.